Welcome to another edition of Conscious Connections, where we explore soul centered conversations that awaken truth, inspire healing, and remind us of our divine power. I am your host, Dr. Deborah Carson, the founder of the Fear to Freedom Project. And I love to sit down with beautiful souls who are transforming lives through their gifts, their stories, and their wisdom. Together, we move beyond fear right into freedom, one conscious conversation at a time. And today, we welcome Mocha, founder of Center of You. She is an herbalist, a life coach, and a guide that weaves together indigenous plant knowledge, intuitive care, and restorative practices to help others return to themselves. Her work honors the intelligence of nature, from herbal blends to immersive renewal experiences, reminding us that healing is a journey back to what the body and the spirit already knows. Welcome to the Fear to Freedom Project, sister. How are
Thank you
you?
for having me. I'm well.
Good, good. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad we know each other. So let's start by telling everyone how we got to know each other. All right.
That's a fun story. I was getting to some new medicine this year, and that medicine was Iboga. And the person that I was sitting with and through that journey, she reached out to me to see if I could talk to someone who was interested. We didn't know each other, and so she introduced us by way of text messages, and then we get on the phone, and then we have this dynamic conversation. And
Mm.
we realized that we are both moving in the space of this work. We are both having a calling. And my dear sister sat with Iboga as well from that
Yeah.
conversation. So it was an honor to be able to sit in that space and to just share from my own experience, and also make the connection and continue to do the work. And just
Yeah.
excited for what's coming.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't afraid because I was being called. I just didn't have a clue about anything. But I
Hmm.
was willing to show up. And when Pamela said, "You need to talk to Mocha, if you have any questions, she's done it. She's a beautiful sister and she will guide you and just give you some information." And you really made it like easy for me to understand and to like what to expect a little bit. And
Hmm.
I do remember, you remember me calling you one time. I was getting afraid. I was like, all right, what if my
Yeah.
ancestors don't want to talk to me? I'm like,
And
what
I
if don't
it
nobody
was a
want to
little
talk? And you
panic
was like,
there.
it was.
It was a little panic there. I was like, "Okay, let's just breathe, because you've made it to this point. You know where you're going. You already know the calling, and sometimes those anxious feelings, those spaces we find ourselves in is
Mhm.
actually a response to, what if it works? You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? What if it's gonna bring what I really need? A lot of times that shift from what we're used to the unknown, which can, open and expand our lives, is a scary place. And
mhm,
so, you're working with all that you know already. And then there's this space of what you don't know. And sometimes that can bring about like nervousness, or what if I don't do it right? Or what if it doesn't go? All of these things. And when we look at life, we have to know that it's always like that. Before you don't know. And
mm,
so as you are growing and everything, there's always going to be this space where you move from not knowing to knowing. And it's just learning how to get a little more comfortable with that as we continue to expand and grow. Because it is in part of life. It's a part of the process of life. We do it all
mhm,
the time. We just
mhm.
don't, we're not always consciously thinking about it. And it's those moments when we're really present that all of it is present with us too.
Yeah, you really eased me. You were like, sis, your ancestors wouldn't do this to you.
Like they're not calling you, like,
They ain't calling you to leave you, girl. I was like, okay. That when I say that really like brought me right back, anchored me into the earth and grounded
Mhm.
me like, "Yeah, they wouldn't do this. I know my ancestors already heard them. I they talked to me." So I really appreciate that. Alright, so let's just I want to know how, like, how did your journey begin with personal healing? I know it started with personal healing, but like how
Right.
did it begin for you to be called into a deeper world of the herbs and indigenous plants?
So, when I look back in totality of um, just where I was and how things unfolded gradually, I always go back to being about 7 years old, right? Playing outside, and there's always this season of the honeysuckle, and it always smells so good. And in my curiosity, I was like, I wonder what it tastes like. And I go to this plant, and I later learned that most of it is not good for you. It's kind of toxic. And it's only one part of it that you should really work with, and that's the nectar inside of the plant. And at 7 years old, I just knew how it smelled, and I was drawn to it. And I picked the flower, and instinctively, I knew to pull out the center to taste it, right? And so
Mm,
all was well, right? And when I go back to that, that is just the beginnings of how I connected with nature. There were certain trees when I was younger that I would sit in for safety, for comfort. And as I got older, when life started to happen, a whole lot of life, children, and all of the things, some of that I was taken away from it. And then there was also years and years of trauma and, loss of identity and all of these things. And so as I'm moving through life with health challenges, diagnosis and things, by the time I'm 35, I realized that this is not my life. I don't even know who I am in this life that I'm living. This is not my body, right? This body is burdened and held down with all of these things. I didn't even recognize my name, right?
mm,
I didn't recognize my reflection in the mirror. And couple that with a lot of personal things happening, there was this, I don't call it there was this disconnect mentally and spiritually, right? And it wasn't until I made a decision. At the time, I was very heavy, and my only decision was to walk, and in that walking, I started reflecting. And then I started to wonder who am I, right? Where am I? And I had some stressors that required me to see mental health providers at the time. And I had diagnosis, and everything was like chaotic. And it wasn't until I did a trauma yoga. I had gotten a scholarship for this 6-week trauma yoga program, and I
mm.
was 38. And I had had major surgeries, body changes, impacts to marriage breaking down, eventual divorce, all of those things are happening. And at 38, in this session where she's guiding us through this movement and also, talking through us, it's like talk therapy and yoga at the same time. It was magical. She did this exercise to put us back in our body. And I
Mm,
realized I had been out of my body so long.
yeah.
And I wept to feel me again.
Mm,
And
mm,
when I felt me again, that's when a new thing unlocked in me: dedication, focus, because I knew that feeling was what I needed to have every day. I needed her with me every single day. And so it started with counseling, it started with working out. I got into my fitness bag. It started with mindfulness and early practices and meditation. And in that, because I had been working with mental health providers and I had been prescribed certain things that didn't align with my body, I delved deeper into herbal and plant studies, right? And so that's where the initial foundation of where I built my business from and my passion was from that time learning those herbs and how to treat myself. I was my first patient.
yeah, I understand that.
And so as I continued to do that, and I realized that these things, when you know the right ways in which to use them with your body, they were actually helping me. And so it was taking me from this very anxious, panicky response to life to moving me into this real stillness as I continue to heal and as I continue to move through the impacts of it. And so after about 4.5 years of doing that, Clubhouse became a thing and I was tapping into some of those rooms. And that's when I started to hear more discussions on the plants. And the initial ones, of course, were psilocybin discussions and mushrooms. And then, there will be mention of something called ayahuasca down the way, and I am, as an herbalist, as I am growing in this and learning the benefits of the plants, now I'm opening a whole new avenue, of how they can help us move through more than just physical things. These are energetic, they are spiritual, they are emotional, they
Yeah.
are mental, right? In a deeper level, it's like when it's done in safety, when it's done with a desire to change your life, right? Then they become the teachers. Then it's like you become the student of a whole thing that can counsel you in a way that people can't.
Yes.
Because now it becomes internal, you
Mm,
know?
You are telling my story. It sounds just like all the things that you were going through. It's the same thing that I was going through, and we never knew that. I'm just hearing your
Right.
story now, and so I can see how we were destined to meet. So you talk about the plants as the teachers, and that is what is so important here because they are considered the master teachers. And from that perspective and from your perspective, what does that mean? When somebody is hearing like the plant is the master teacher, gosh, I'm feeling this all in my soul right now. But what does that mean that plants can teach us? They are the masters.
So, you know, a lot of times when we look at nature, we tend to look at ourselves as outside of it when we are indeed the nature we see, right?
Wow.
And so we already have things in this beautiful vessel that each and every one of us has been blessed with, however it comes. It is equipped to do certain things, right? These natural plants that grow are equipped to work in us a certain way when they haven't been tampered with and when they haven't been altered, which we know that takes some discernment now in this world, right?
Mhm.
When they come to us, they have already within them the message, the cure, the treatment, right? So they retain knowledge and wisdom. When we consume them, we therefore take in the knowledge and the wisdom. Now
Mm.
it's going to work on us internally. That's why they are the master teachers because they come inside of you, right? To show you you. This is not something you experience outside of you. Everything outside of you helps you navigate this world and this plane, but the real work is the work that's being done inside. And
Mm.
so they have a way synergetically to connect with you, to speak with you, to show you you, and have you sitting in a place of truth that you cannot deny or turn away from, right?
Wow. That is like that synergistic relationship that you talk about. And yeah, yeah, that's the plant getting to the root of the
Right.
problem, the root of the
And we
trauma.
know what the root is. Like, and a
Mm,
lot of times our roots are, they need some work,
mm,
right? And
mhm.
that's the beauty of it. So, like, when you work with a root medicine like Iboga, you're
Mm,
going to the foundation so that
mm,
you can elevate. You know, when you're working with something like ayahuasca that flows by the river and moves in a pattern like a serpent, we know
mm,
that's tied to the Kundalini energy. So now we are learning how to rise higher, right?
mm,
They have their placements. When you tap in with the mushrooms, you're tapping into the mycelium network. You are connecting with the earth, this very plane that we're on, all the root structures, all the trees. you are taking in the consciousness of all.
Mm, mm.
And now there's the work within you. So then you start to really know yourself. It's a difference than thinking you know who you are
And
and knowing
I have to insert cacao in there. I love mother cacao. I've been called to that plant, and that is the plant of the heart.
it is indeed. And there is a beautiful synergy between the plant of the heart merging with the all and consciousness of the all and all of the generations before us. You know, these these plants are recording, they're retaining information, and
Mm,
they come in our alignment and in our placement when we are ready for them.
mm.
Sometimes it looks like we are seeking when we are actually going where we're supposed to,
That's
until we get
interesting.
to a point where we're not seeking anymore and we just know.
Mm. I
Yeah.
like that. I like this conversation because I'm just new and I feel like a babe. I am in pre-K, even though I am Dr. Carson. I am so in pre-K. Yeah, and I love it because I love learning about it all. I'm just very curious and I'm not nervous. This is a thing when you because I am the Fear to Freedom Project. I am my own project, right? Moving
Right.
from fear right into freedom and ease. And I also used yoga to understand my body and conditioning and going to the gym and working out and coming back into my body. I didn't even know I was out of my body until you were just talking about it. So I love that. And so for people that are curious about it and
Hmm.
also nervous at the same time, what's a safe approach for people to deal with like psilocybin or ayahuasca or iboga, any of the plants? What should people know about the environment, setting their intention, and choosing a practitioner?
All right. So those are multiple things in navigating this space. So my suggestion would always be to make sure you do some research. However, do not become reliant on anyone else's experience.
Mhm,
As we know, we are unique individuals. Everyone will have a unique experience. And then, in doing that research, you should also consider, the space where you're wanting to go, how they do it. You always want to look for somewhere there's not just numbers. You want to kind of retain some small group places. At least that would be my suggestion. I've been in both. I've been in small groups and I've been in large numbers. Large numbers is like 20 plus people journeying at the same time in one
mm,
space. That
mm,
is a lot of energetic exchange.
mm,
And a lot of times there's these spaces that are around where you can just pay some money, you can go and you can go have you an experience, right?
mhm,
It's very important that there is some structure set up pre ceremony and post ceremony because there are going to be a lot of things that come up. And one of the beautiful things about it is when they give you something, when these plants give you something, there is a test that happens right after to see if you got what you said you got. And
what do you
a lot of
mean?
like a test of life. So let's say, I realized in one of my journeys that I wasn't really being truthful in how I presented myself. And I recognize that in order to continue what I need to do, I have to be the truth. Right. So then, you go on this journey, you come home, you're feeling good, man. You had the most amazing experience, and then you meet a little friction, and it's requiring you to be the truth that you hadn't been before.
I got you. True. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
That's facts. That's facts. I can tell you that happened to me too after Eboga.
Yeah, and it does, and it's on purpose, right?
Mm,
Because now, if you're going to really release or if you're going to really move, it's going to require you to really do that. Because
mhm,
if you decide to come back, right? Or if you decide to return to it, because you don't go back, because it's a new experience every time. If you decide to return to it, then would you want it to give you what it's already given you, or would you want it to grow you? So you have to make sure that when these things are happening, you're able to have some supports in place so you can process because it's going to open up your awareness in a way that it likely has never been opened. And depending on how people live their lives, that could be unsettling, right? So,
Yeah. Well, I want to say something about that
mhm,
because a lot of times we've been conditioned to live behind a mask. And when you are approaching the space of truth through these
right.
master plants, it can be unsettling. And so I notice that some people are safer. They feel safer living behind the mask. So I just wanted to offer, like, if you're considering plants as your teachers, that you have to know that when you come into this space, it's all about truth and revealing shadows
Yeah,
that we have been living in. And yeah, it could be jarring, but it
very
can
much
be.
so.
Yeah, but you release it and it's okay. And I think, not I think, I know that being in a space where you are held, the the medicine woman that I sat with, I just felt held, and this was the place that I was supposed to be. I was, because I don't know anything. I'm totally being guided. This is me
Mhm.
relinquishing the reins and from living in a space where I needed to be in control. I needed to know everything. I didn't even know where I was gonna sleep until, you
Yeah,
know, yeah,
I
like,
know.
until I got off the plane and I was picked up,
You
right?
don't find out. You do
Yeah,
not know. I love
yeah.
that.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know the people, but I felt so excited. I had my backpack on and I was just like, I mean, I was just ready. I came into space ready. But what I wanted to say is, after I thought, like, yes, I'm gonna go, to the land where it comes from, and this is where I'm headed.
Right,
And then I felt a halt, and
right.
that I was guided to sit with Mother Aya. And so
Mhm.
now there's a shift, and I'm like, what do you mean there's a shift? How does that happen? Like, can you talk to that? That how can
Yeah,
that
so
shift just happen like that?
it's very interesting I've had a few journeys, and the very first ones were with the psilocybin. That was the actual first hurdle to get over because there was always this stigma around if you take these things, you'll lose your mind.
That was a question that I had too. I was like, I don't wanna lose my mind. Even mushrooms
No,
came up in my life about, yeah, maybe some years ago, and I was like, I'm not losing my mind," because but then my, ayahuasca sister, she was like, "You can lose your mind walking down the street, just being in
absolutely
this world."
can. Right. Because this world is so fascinating. And so, there was that stigma around it and also experience of early childhood challenges with my own mother having challenges with mental health. And so there was this very much like, I'm not, going to lose my mind. And even with my own challenges and going to providers and having to have evaluations, I, I had an inner wisdom that said, you won't know if you don't try. And as scary as it was, I tried anyway. um,
Good.
and the initial experience, the very first one was horrible. Actually, just all I felt was sick and I didn't like it. And I was like, why people do this? And I realized after gaining some wisdom and listening to how to set the intentions, how to set the space where you're going to do it, the reasons why you do it a certain way. So, you know, at first I was eating, didn't know, it's good not to have something on your stomach. It's better to do it at night. It's better to do it in a dark space. And these were the early things. And I've done it in the daytime and in darkness. It unlocked me. And so from that one, it was like my world expanded. It just didn't expand in what it delivered to me. It expanded in what my life was like after,
Mm,
right? Because the things that I learned, I couldn't unlearn. Like I couldn't go back to what was before. So now I
mhm.
am this new. And it took me on a journey of allowing. And initially, I was like, "You can't tell me, mushrooms are it. They it. That's it, right?" And they were growing me. In addition to that, things just started flowing my way. I just started hearing about things, and I heard about ayahuasca. And initially, I was excited, and I was like, "Okay, let me get to this." And Spirit was like, "No, it's not your time yet."
Mm,
And so it was not available to me. I actually reached out, didn't hear anything. About 3, 4 months later, the people responded back because that's
mhm,
when it was time for me. And
mm,
so I have now moved into the space where I answer the call when I'm being called. In that Aya experience, I heard about it, didn't know much about it, did a little research, never watched people's experiences because I am always an explorer. So I want to know how that feels with me.
mm,
And I experienced Aya, and then from there, I hear something about Bufo. Then I later hear something about Iboga, and I actually hear something about Iboga 2.5 years before I'm sitting with Iboga.
mm.
And so it's more of I learned to move from seeking to allowing
Yeah.
because what I should know, I will know.
Yes. I love that you
Right.
said that.
And so
That's good. Yeah.
each journey has been completely different and all expansive, and how each has required me to do work. There's been beauty in the healing of it. It's been reflective in my life now, from where I was to where I am. The stillness, the peace, the knowing of myself, the being in a place where I no longer doubt
Mm,
what my path and my purpose is.
mhm,
I know
mm,
where I'm placed.
mm,
Healing generational trauma, right? Through
mm,
my own vessel and being, and watching it go from me forward in my offspring and the family members around me and different things. And then being able to know I cleared it behind me as well so
mm,
that we could all continue to ascend.
mm.
To be an ascended master requires work.
Yes, yes, that's my goal. I just think about my earthly goal of wanting to be, the best social worker that God even placed here on earth, and I was totally that. I am
Hmm.
that. And but now after I had my spiritual awakening and I just found out what an ascended master is, I'm like, "Ha, so that is my goal." Yes, that is my I wanna be in this I will be. I know that we continue to ascend in this experience,
Yes.
and I look forward to that. So, the medicine shows you the door.
Hmm.
Integration helps you to walk through the door. So integration is very important. It is. I hear that. Integration, integration, integration. And why is that so important? And what are the practices that you use in terms of integration with your patients?
So integration is it's important because you've opened a chapter that you or a space that you weren't looking at that you didn't want to deal with, right? And so a lot of times that in and of itself brings an overwhelming feeling that brings a level of anxiousness, right? Now you're reconciling what life was before because you are on the other side and things look similar to where they were. You're not the thing that's the same, right?
Right.
And so, if you don't start to work to build some tools or recognize or have a space to express what you know, express what you feel, right? Because this is all new to you. And as we grow in community, we move into the places with our own experience where we can bear wisdom and assist others. And that's the most important part of this work. It is not leaving people to fend for themselves. They have opened these doors. And sometimes these doors are in the deep recesses of them. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And all the things are starting to spill out. As we look as a whole, counseling and having support in that way is important. It's the same thing. It is necessary. I do not, in my knowing, we should not be holding space if we're not holding space.
Yeah. I got you.
People should not be a number, you
I
know?
got you.
Well, that might be something for and I'm not critical of anyone who is developing their practices in the way that they do. How it's been given to me, how spirit guides me, that's not how I would do it, right? I'm not saying that even in any of this we can follow someone for the rest of their lives. In some instances they will be affiliated like that.
Yeah.
In some instances, they will get what they need, and then they will go and create the containers they need to create. They will have the support, and then each person who learns teaches. That's the goal.
Mm,
So now we're not just having people who come, who just to come and have an experience and sit. We are actually assisting in the growth and the continuation of what we do so that they can take what they have and share it with others.
mm,
It's very important. And some of the ways in which I do that in working with the patients that I do, we, there's going to usually be 2 sessions prior to you coming for overnight renewal where we're going to talk about things and we're going to delve a little deeper because I want you to know you have safe space, right? And then I'm also going to discuss with you and walk you through the things that I can that, with doing this a lot, that happens. Sometimes there are temperature changes in the body, everybody's going to be laying on a mat. These are conversations we can have and I can kind of prep you and I can tell you. I'm very good about giving others information so that they are armed with what they need to make an informed decision you know? And so we go through that process and then we hold the renewal. After the renewal, day later, I'm seeing how you're doing, right? And then a week later, I'm following up, right? I sometimes have people who reach out to me where, outside of that, so I speak with them at that time. It's not always follow to the T. However, it's set in place. It's all included, right? And so then we also have a month follow up because in 30 days, we know what impacts it really has on your life because you've moved through that honeymoon phase that we can have with how it gives you all this stuff and you're going and then 30 days later you're settling back into life. So what does it look like now? How are you? And from there I can even make recommendations and I even, am growing a network of referrals where if you need something beyond that, let's get you to someone so you can continue. Because this is the life, right? You're opening these doors. And once you have that support, you're ready to go open that door, clear that one out. And now it's this one all the way back there. Now you can get to it, right?
mm.
And so it's important. This work is for the whole.
Yes, absolutely. I can say I love that I have come here as a social worker in this world. That's just been work that I've felt very honored to do. I did not have a bad run as a social worker. I didn't. All
Good.
of it, it was took a lot to work in that space to care for people who have been forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
who are disenfranchised. But I felt so empowered as I served. And so I can say that after experiencing you as the medicine woman, coming to serve ladies that I gathered with, that you are so patient and caring and compassionate. You take very careful steps to inform people of what's next. And that's really important to me as a social worker to inform
Mm-hmm.
people about what's next, what's happening along the way, especially when they enter into a space that's very vulnerable for them and they are
Mm-hmm.
expecting to be cared for, to be nurtured, and to be brought to a wholeness,
Right.
something different. Whenever they come into this space, they are coming with the mindset that they're gonna leave with something different, that they're gonna leave in a different place, and you offered that, and I am just so glad. That's why you're here. That's why you are the
Thank
Freedom
you.
Project. Yes, because people look to me for
Mhm.
resources that are credible and authentic, and that's what I like that I'm bringing through this channel, right? And not just me, I don't wanna take so much credit. I am totally being guided, and I love that, but
Right.
you as a practitioner and a server of humanity, and I just thank you for that. So, if
Thank you.
plants could speak right now, if the herbs could speak, if the roots, if the fungi could speak directly to the collective, whoever is tuning in and whoever will tune in as this world continues to move, what do you feel they would want to say at this moment right now?
Hmm. Actually, don't allow fear to stop you. You have to lean into it because you're only fearful because you don't know. And the
Mm.
only way not to be fearful is to know. And
I'm
that's a
leaning
lot.
into that.
Yeah. Because for we live fearful lives a lot. Like this world is designed for it. You
Mm.
know what I mean? It is in at every corner, right? It's learning how to be present within you and to know that so many times we just don't know and then we do. And it's not as bad as we think it's going to be. We a lot of times we create our own suffering
Yes.
thinking it's going to be something, you know?
Yes. Yes, Mocha. We're doing it. You're not a victim.
Yeah,
Nobody's doing it to you.
right. And too many people live in that space where it feels like something is always happening to them. And the reason why it feels like that is because they are not in control of themselves, right? They are not settled within them. It is not everything happening around you. You have to be able to get to a place of stillness. And as much as I talk about it, and as much as people will see me where I am right now, there have been a lot of lessons and a lot of things along the way and a lot of shifts, even in me. Is like very uncomfortable, right? I wouldn't change it
Mm.
to sit where I sit right now, to have this magnitude of gratitude and joy, to really see the beautifulness of, not the beautifulness, the fullness of the life and the beauty and the gift of it. Because the world will paint a different picture for you if
Mm.
you tune in
Yeah,
every day, every day,
you
through
have a
everything we
choice.
consume.
Yes, just what you said. If you tune in, see, this is important. What you're saying is very important. If you choose to tune in, you're
Right.
in control. I love that. Thank you. Okay, so
Yeah.
I love to ask all of, I'm going to honor your time. I love
Mhm.
to ask all of my guests this. What are you most excited about in life right now?
Helping others. Actually, like it's the it's the part where I get to embody my childlike joy in just being able to serve, being able to share, being able to give, to teach, being able to learn. Like it's the full exchange of it. It's that being in that space of, if you grow up feeling you're alone all the time, right? And knowing that that's not an independent experience. A lot of people feel like that, right? And then being in that space where, for those moments, those people who are with you know beyond a doubt that they are not alone
I
and
love
they're
that.
fully seen as they are, not as you appear to be.
Mhm.
Because that's the thing. We talked about masks.
Yeah,
It's the ability to be able to see people in their humanity and receive them as they are.
as they are, right where they are, starting where they are. I love that. What does moving from fear to freedom mean to you?
Whew. It is really, it has been changing the very structure and fabric of the reality that I agreed to that I was living, having it all stripped away, not knowing what was going to be next, being in struggles, at times not even home secure, complete life of decades just gone in the complete rebuild of it. And in every step, I brought me along. I did not abandon me.
Mm, mm,
And that is where the freedom and the ability to be free lies. Because no matter what this world does, I know I have me. And I lived a large part of my life not knowing that.
mm. That's beautiful. You're beautiful. Yes, that is. I'm glad
Thank
we
you,
know
hon.
each other. Jeez, this is
I'm
all
so grateful.
divine. I didn't do this. This is
Uh,
why it's so special. You are always welcome back here to the Fit of Freedom Project. I want you to know that. You
I,
have an open invitation to come back. How can people work with you?
So they can work with me. They can access me through my website. And I don't know if we're going to put it in a chat,
Yep.
but it is Dunia, and that's Dunia Tele.com. On that, it'll have the services that I offer, information about me. It'll have my contact. There's interest, if you're interested in the client intake forms, all of that is on the website. I also have an Instagram, and it's Dunia Tele on Instagram as well. And that's kind of where I am social media wise right now. I am working to grow that and expand. And so, you know, I have to have some
Absolutely.
technologically savvy friends.
Yeah, yeah, the technology thing, but, we don't need any of it because every person that is supposed to make their way
Come,
to you will make their
will
way to
come.
you.
Yep.
And
And I
so
receive it.
absolutely, and
It's a
all
flow.
information will be in the show notes as well to the audience.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, and we will see you again. Of
Yes,
course,
indeed.
you are my sister, and we are forever connected. Thank you so much. I honor you. I honor your work.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I love you so much. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of Conscious Connections. May today's conversation remind you that you are never, ever, ever separated from Source. You are never separated from your ancestors. And you are never, ever, ever, ever separated from yourself. That love, purpose,
Absolutely.
and freedom live directly within you. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Share this episode with someone whose soul is seeking and needs some light. This is where fear ends, and this is where freedom begins. Until the next time, peace and love.
Peace and love.